emerge, even if they are 1 million or more than 1 million, they will now come to the center and begin to deliberate the basis for existing, to negotiate and renegotiate. And on the table of negotiation, they can decide to make use of the document, a constitution that they are intending to replace, and take it one after the other. Say, on this is our new proposal. This is our new proposal. Now, however long it takes, when it is finally agreed that this is the wishes of the people, then that document that has now come to be the new constitution will be taken round the Federation of Nigeria under the military interregnum, so that it will be voted for, as this is the agreement of the ethnic nationalities that come together to form a new Nigeria. When it is voted as the agreement and representing the wishes of the people, then the military will now conduct election. Now a fresh election that will be governed by the new constitution, the provision of that constitution. So if in the new constitutional discussion they agree that they are going to regionalism, then the election will now be framed on the basis of that. If they say, okay, they are going to on true federalism, akin or fashion after the United States of America, then on the basis of that. So whatever election that the military will conduct afterwards will no longer be guided by the constitution that existed before, but by the new constitution that the people have come to make. Then after the elections are conducted and leaders emerged, then you will say there is a new Nigeria on a new constitution, and legitimacy then begins to flow from that. Military would naturally back out. So this is the only way a new constitution will be fashioned for Nigeria. Any other way other than this, by elected officials who by law do not have power to replace the constitution, in itself will be act that is illegal, unlawful, and can never stand the test of time. Now here is the problem. The problem is that you cannot trust the military. It has never happened in Africa where, look at Chad, look at what's happening in Niger. It has never happened in Africa where the military will say, okay, we take over power, we'll conduct election in 18 months and we'll leave. And they leave. That's one. Then number two, they can come and change the legal order completely. And then during this period of military interregnum, where the ethnic nationalities will come to sit and discuss a new constitution. Remember, even when you gather together in family meeting, there will be dissenting opinions. There will be people, taking objections to what others are saying. So there is likelihood of a little bit of chaos and crisis. It is natural. You raise a point that somebody feels offended, and somebody will have to calm them down. During this period of military interregnum and suspension of the extant constitution, remember, the universal fundamental right will not be in existence. Any other right as provided for in the Constitution of Nigeria will cease to exist. In other words, we will be fashioning a new constitution under the mercy of the military. And the question is, have the military ever respected the rights of citizens? Have they ever obeyed legal framework that is democratically accepted by government all over the world? It has never happened. So, and then to come to think of it, that then people in the conference will start fighting this or agitating. Military will not. And then you find a situation where, these ethnic nationalities are not agreeing with this. During this period, there may be in the various ethnic nationalities one reprisal or the other. How do you think military will manage this thing? You think they will go and be dialoguing with people? So during this period of fashioning a new constitution under the supervision of the military or military interregnum, there is likely going to be the total clamping down of the fundamental rights of people. But push the envelope further. Who military will conduct? Who will be the president in the military interregnum? That's another thing. Because whoever is the president during the military era will influence the outcome of the constitution to favor the part where he comes from. So it is not as easy as we are thinking. And because emotions are high in Nigeria, nobody wants to think of whether this thing will be or not. They just want it, It's like somebody in a relationship where a lady is just fed up. She just wants out. She's not thinking of the danger or the problem that will come after the relationship is broken. Now, let me now push it further. We are all fighting today in Nigeria because there is a part of Nigeria who feel that they have the oil, and justifiably so. Development in their area is not commensurate to the oil that they produce. They are not in charge of oil companies. They are not reflective of that, and that's why they're asking for resource control. We want to control our resources and give some part to the government, right? Let me be prophetic. The outcome of this constitutional review process might lead to the increase of derivation formula from 19. It might probably go to 25 or something like that, which will be a very big bargaining success for the Niger Delta, because what you are getting now in terms of allocation account, by the time the derivation formula is increased, you are going to have outstanding, financial inflow, resources in the area. Host communities are also calling for that, right? Now, we are fighting for oil that right now is projected that after a certain period, oil will no longer be needed in the world. We have not sat down to think about it, that the future of the next generation is not dependent on oil. That's one. Then number two, if you go to the southeast, the entire southeast geographical landmark can be put into Borno State. And the Igbos are the most industrious and most productive in terms of business people all over the world. In fact, there was a time CNN did a documentary about the system of business settlement that the Igbo, do, where somebody comes serve his master for a period of 6 years or 7 years, after which he settled and he goes. They say is the most thriving entrepreneurial strategy of lifting people out of poverty. They have that ingenuity. When you break out of Nigeria, you're going to have a problem of land. And land is very crucial, even within the present framework in the Igbo land. I say that because there is no part of Igbo land I have not gone. And it may interest you to know that I even have a land in Enugu. So if you go to Biafra, we're there for Biafra. So now, this is the challenge. They will then have the challenge of administration. Because if you go to the eastern part of Nigeria at the moment, you will see conflict between Anglican and the Catholic, and it's reflective even in government and even among states. Somebody will say, leave it to us. When we come home, we will deal with that. You have to think it through. You have to think it through from now. Because if you don't think it through and plan it, that's why I'm telling Nnamdi Kanu. Later tonight, I will be having a discourse in Elomba television where Nnamdi Kanu regularly features. And then one of these days, I'm likely to also engage with him. It's not about fighting. You see, you have to think through. Whatever you do, you have to think through. It is not enough to be emotional about something. When the emotion is ended, you are facing reality. Now, the only part of the country that will become the biggest beneficiaries if Nigeria should break across regional line is the Southwest. Because everything is in the Southwest. Everything. Commerce, industry, technology, everything is in the Southwest. But even if you look at the way the Southwest is approaching this idea, they are not burning their installations. They are not burning their buildings. When ENSTAR started in Lagos, at the beginning, they all went out against Tinubu. As soon as they noticed that certain installations of government have been destroyed, there was a quick change of mind by the people of the Southwest, and they stopped that. They understood you cannot destroy your installation and expect development. Learn from the Northeast. Learn from the Northeast. Northeast used to have the biggest fine road in terms of movement. We had fish in the Lake Chad Basin. We have farmers. We have onions. We have so many things. Can you boast of the same now? And how did it even start? When Boko Haram started, Boko Haram and IPOB now have shared agenda. Both of them, they do not believe in the legitimacy of the existing government. They believe they have a different government. And their approach is not through the democratic and conventional means. All over the world, people are agitating. Scotland wants to break out of England. Did you hear any fight anywhere? Everywhere. So, but this Boko Haram and IPOB approach is destroy, fight, kill in the hope that you will get it. Now, when they started in the Northeast, because President Jonathan was in power and people didn't like him, There was not coordinated coming together by the people in the Northeast to flush out Boko Haram. Because the idea is that we don't like them, but it's the fault of the president. You know, it's like, I don't like Boko Haram, they are killing my people, but I won't take a step further because it's not my responsibility, it's the responsibility of the president. That, to me, is passiveness, right? You did that because you felt it would demarcate someone going to the election. Now, Jonathan has come and gone. He's peacefully somewhere. He has even reconciled with the president, and the president has made him an envoy. Where is the Northeast? Can you see industries there? Can you see factories there? Can you see development there? This same thing the Southeast must not allow the criminal elements to do in the most productive communities in Nigeria. It will be regrettable. So another day I will talk about this aspect of secession and then the dangers associated with it. And you see, if Nigeria separates not in peace, you are not going to, even if you have oil, who are your neighbors? Your neighbors are the people you just broke out from. You think people will just say peace and shake your hand and go? There might be lingering crisis. You remember the crisis in Iraq and Iran that lasts for 10 years. There might be lingering crisis. Then we will open ourselves up to foreign interest. And I have never heard that foreign interests have ever had interest in the natives. It is always about what they can get. At the end of the day, we'll become far less in the Committee of Nations as little entities than we are now as the biggest democracy in Africa and the biggest economy in Africa. But that's a talk for another day. For today is the issue of the Constitution. Let me summarize by saying the National Assembly does not have the legal backing and legal authority to replace this Constitution. Their legitimacy is derived from the Constitution. The minute you take steps to replace that Constitution, you lose the legitimacy. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria does not have the legal right and the legal backing to replace or form a new constitution, because his authority as under Section 5 is derived from the Constitution, and his duty is to protect and maintain the provision of this Constitution. So you cannot ask a dog, how do I put the better? You cannot ask the security man to destroy the very house he's asked to protect. The minute you ask the security man to do that, you are destroying the very essence of the contract for which the security man is planted. There is only one way by which this constitution will be replaced with a brand new constitution. And that one way, we are not prepared for it. Nigerians will resist it. And that one way is the hard way, because it is also